Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you want some promo or your music reviews, you can hit up Luke at redmattersite.com. That's S-I-T-E. And you can also send any questions there if you want advice or you want my opinion on something. I actually just hit 20K subscribers on YouTube, so thank you very much to everybody. Get those questions in, and for the next podcast, I'll be doing an Ask Me Anything Q&A sort of deal. You also want to make sure that you check me out on Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube, and IG at LukeJamesBGN, on Facebook.com/LukeJamesReviews. But today, we have a very special guest. It's Granddad Wooly from Wooly Reviews on YouTube. You can find him at youtube.com/GranddadRDLR and on Twitter and IG at Granddad Wooly. Wooly, what's up, man? How you feeling?
Luke, what up, fam? Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's my first podcast of all time, so I was excited that the first one is on the Luke James podcast because it's that fire. So appreciate you for having me. I'm ready to talk about some shit.
Glad we could get you on, man. Glad we could get you on, especially after we just did that other collab there. Went really well talking about that Mick Jenkins. So I figure today we just start things off very simplistically. Most people know us for talking about hip-hop, so I just wanted to know what your general feelings were in regards to the state of hip-hop in 2018. Do you like the direction it's going in? What would you like to see change? What trends do you see? Just wherever you want to go with it.
Well, look, as a fellow artist and participant in the game, yes, I do rap, I got bars. But I think 2018 has actually been a very good year for hip-hop. I mean, we've gotten so many projects that's dropped, Luke. I mean, come on, you know how many projects have just been dropping in the last couple months? We've been getting album overload, and a lot of them have been really solid and well put together. I mean, I could just name off a list of albums here and there, but we'll be here all day. But I think, the state of hip-hop is... you got your moments, where, of course, on the mainstream level, it's a lot of just, BS, garbage. You got the SoundCloud rappers who's coming through with, the same generic trap style that apparently right now is the shit. I don't know why. Trap's been around forever, but apparently now it's the hot shit. But, you also got a lot of stuff on the underground or the up-and-coming, or that's kind of bubbling. That's also really, really dope. So I think, for me personally, I used to be one of those, angry, up-and-coming rappers was why so-and-so ain't getting this shine, or why so-and-so ain't doing that. But now I feel like the playing field is so much more even with how people can put out music, how people can get, their shine. Look at artists like JPEG Mafia or No Name or those people who aren't really mainstream, but they're getting shine and they're getting recognition. And then as well as you got people like Lil Pump and 6ix9ine and those cats who are, of course, they have their own fan bases and they got their own antics. But I think in this state of hip hop, I guess there's room for everyone, even though it's kind of saturated and shit. But, there's something for everybody. You're not going to like everything, but we're not at a point right now where we're forced to listen to all this stuff. There's so many options and so many avenues we can go to listen to our hip hop. Literally, there's something for everybody. So I'm not too mad about it. It's in a good spot. We got a lot of dope artists out here doing their damn thing, and they're getting, their shine. They might not be selling millions of records, but nobody really is these days, so it's all good. And, and then the ones who do break through and are getting their just due, I appreciate one of my favorite rappers, Rap City. She is killing it right now. She's dope. She's, she's making more and more moves every day, and I'm just saying, people like that, when you really are talented and you really work hard, you're going to break through at some point. So, I like where it's going, I like where it's at. What about you?
I actually feel the same way. I especially feel like this year there's really been a resurgence of boom bap shit, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like boom bap has always been around. If you like that subgenre, you're always going to find the quality stuff. I'm not trying to say it hasn't been there, but there have just been so many great boom bap projects this year, man. Anyone who's a fan of that sound's got to be happy because you got Jericho Jackson, Apathy, Evidence, Ghostface. I could go on and on with all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But I also have to agree with what you said about the mainstream scene being kind of weak right now. Whenever I talk about the mainstream shit, I kind of feel like maybe I'm just being nostalgic, being a little bit of an old head. But I really feel like back in the day, just to take a way back, there was a bit more variety in the mainstream. You know what I mean? Everybody now sort of brings the same sort of sound. You're getting a lot of those generic auto-croon trappy projects, which is fine. But even back in the day, it seems like the rappers still took pride in trying to compete with each other and sound different from each other. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I agree. Look back at the 90s. It was a time where we had, in the same vein in the mainstream, we had Jay-Z, but also Outkast. We had UGK. We had, everything, the West Coast. We had Death Row. And everybody had a unique sound. We had Wu-Tang. You know, we had, Missy was doing something new. Like, everybody was doing something new and different, but it was all dope. And, like, everybody had their own style. Nobody, like, it was a sin to be a biter back in the day. If you were caught sounding like somebody else, you were pretty much just exiled from hip-hop. So nowadays, it's, like, commonplace to, like, say, okay, who's on, who's hot? Okay, now I got to recreate that sound because that's what's going to get me on. And I guess now it's okay to do that shit. Like, I'm not a fan of that shit. Like, I get it if you're influenced by somebody, but if you're up here straight up biting someone's style or their production choices or whatever it is, and then you're making a buck off of it, I mean, yeah, you're going to last for a little bit, but I don't respect you fully as an artist because that's not being an artist. You're being a copycat. So, but apparently motherfuckers like that shit. So, I mean, to me, it's going to dry out. I mean, it's a fad. I mean, every so often, every few years, like, there's a new trend, a new wave that people are going to jump on. But the boom bap shit, the traditional, the raw, the real shit, that shit has always stood the test of time and always will. So that's what I go for. I love my boom bap. I fuck with that.
And it's the same thing, too, with lyrics and content. I feel like when you drop a project that has a lot of depth to it, has some meaning to it, not to say they're all good, because one thing I like to make clear is that there are obviously some more traditional sounding hip-hop projects that are kind of boring. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I like everything that's boom bap automatically. Sometimes that shit's not always up to snuff. But I just feel like, coming back to what you said, a lot of the artists really care more about the money than making an iconic album, it seems like. Like an album that's really going to be remembered and talked about and held in high regard. And you can't really hate on people too much for that. I mean, obviously, if you're a musician, you're trying to make a career. And in this day and age of streaming, you really got to go for that more generic hit sound. So I do get and understand why people are doing that. But I do wish we did have some more representation in the mainstream because, you know, it's not, I feel like there's not a lot of variety in the mainstream to help keep things interesting. We're also seeing this trend of long projects that are just way too damn long, man. Like, especially when you're talking about that generic autocroon style. Like, I reviewed that Tory Lanez project recently, and I don't listen to it and say, this is all out garbage. This is the worst thing I ever heard in my life. I can understand why people like it. It's very catchy. You have some nice production on there, whatever. But as far as originality and creativity, there's like nothing on there at all. Like, you know, I get its purpose for parties and stuff like that, but it doesn't sound like something that's going to be remembered. Just another autocroon project that feels like a lot of the other ones out there. So I'm really curious just to see what direction hip-hop's going to go in. Do you have any idea what direction you think it's going to go in, or what direction you want to see it go in?
Honestly, I don't know. And tapping back into what you were just saying, like that's the main reason why I don't review a lot of those mainstream like autochrome projects, because it's the same thing over and over again. And like I don't have the time or patience. Like when I listen to shit, like if you have to actually bring something that makes me want to be interested in listening to your project. So if I hear you doing something that you've done a million times or that I've heard a million times over, I just dismiss it almost immediately. So what I want to see, as far as the future of hip hop, I just want to see like what it usually has been doing. I want to see it go into a different direction, but also innovate. I want hip hop to go back to a place where people aren't afraid to be innovative, do new things, be their own selves, and then the mainstream to accept that on a higher level. Like, I mean, there are some points where some artists will do something different and unique, and they'll get their little cult fan base, and people will kind of like talk about them, but then they'll kind of bottom out, or they'll hit a ceiling. Because they don't fit a certain mold. I want that ceiling to break, and I want it pretty much to be like, it doesn't matter who you are, what the fuck you do. If it's dope and if people like it, let that shit ride, because that's when hip hop was at its best, when we had so many different styles and flavors and just influences coming in at the same time. And those also help other artists. Like when one artist saw someone who was doing something different, that was like, yo, that's dope. Like, you know, and they would end up working together. Like when you get those like dream collabs back in the day with two artists who you never thought would work together, but they were both dope. Like nowadays, when you get a collab with artists, it's only artists collab with only artists that sound exactly the same. Like there'll be some tracks where they sound so the same that you don't even know who's who. And that's like, that's not hip hop to me. It's like hip hop is like, you know, it's a culture, but it's also about expression of your own self. And you got to express who you really are and not who you think you should be or who you should fit the mold of. So that's what I wanted to go to. Hopefully in the next couple years, we still get quality music. We're always going to get quality music out. There's still going to be artists out there putting out quality music, but I want artists to really, you know, go and do their own thing, not just jump on the bandwagon and try to get a quick buck. I mean, but most of these motherfucking artists, these young artists, they don't even give a fuck about hip hop. They're just trying to make some money. I mean, it's an easy buck for them. So that's what it is. So, I mean, you know, they playing the game. That's all it is. So hopefully we just get some more true artists to break through and do their damn thing.
And it's interesting that you say that because I saw an article recently. Actually, it was an interview with Snoop Dogg, I think it was. And he was talking about how what's changed in the game is a lot of the younger artists coming up now, they don't really have that respect for the old heads or the craft or the artists that came before them. And it's not about bowing down. It's not about, you know, having to stick to that old head sound or anything like that. It's not about that. But just that respect isn't there. Because Snoop was talking about how when he came onto the scene, you know, as a West Coast gangster, some of the shit that he was doing with Doggy Style, it was very different from what some of the guys were doing on the East Coast. But he still gave them the utmost respect. He was still a fan. He was talking about how he bowed down to some of the GOATs and some of the legends like that. So I feel like that sort of thing is gone. And a lot of it also has to do with just how much music comes out, man. Way too much music comes out these days.
Way too oversaturated.
And it's funny when I talk about this topic, because I don't want to feel like I'm complaining about the new school and the new sounds. That's always a part of progression. As a music reviewer, yes, just like anyone else, there's certain sounds and styles that I like. I think everyone's going to have some sort of bias because, you know, we're not robots. We're all from different backgrounds. We've experienced different things, so we connect to different sounds and topics or whatever. But I just feel like it's hard to walk that line when the new school shit just really isn't bringing a lot of creativity and originality. Like you said, with all these artists sounding the same, what really stuck out to me that you said is how you get all these artists on a track and they sound the same. And that Tory Lanez project, coming back to that again, is a perfect example. Like, there will be a song on it that has him and 3 or 4 other auto-crooners. And yeah, you can sort of tell the difference between them. If you're huge fans, I mean, obviously you might feel a connection to one of the artists on there more so than another. But for the most part, it's that same fucking style. And it's almost like, what's the point? Because I think what works great with collaborations is when you do have that sort of contrast. Like, remember back in the day, if you saw like a West Coast artist working with the East Coast artist, there's just such different styles there that you're like, oh fuck, this is going to be crazy. Or even when Snoop Dogg went to No Limit, and then all of a sudden he was mixing that West Coast sound with some more Southern influence, just using that as an example.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like it's so many missed opportunities with that. Like, you just imagine like the artists today, if they really just kind of blended and worked together. But like, going back to this, like, you know, even the old heads, like, there's no respect because a lot of the old heads in our generation or the generation before us, they trash these new cats. They don't really like say, hey, you know, they don't kind of take them under the wing. It's like, you know, like Slick Rick wasn't trashing like, you know, Snoop Dogg and Biggie and them when they came out. You know, granted, Snoop Dogg and Biggie were talented as fuck, but even still, they were completely different than what he was doing in the 80s. But like nowadays, like, it's so different. I mean, and it's so much non-creativity. I get why a lot of these older artists and the old heads, I guess, really just don't fuck with these new cats. And that's where that respect lies. Is this? They're not giving the respect and they're not getting it. So it's kind of like a two-way street. But even if you're getting it coming into this game and you're young, you still have to show respect to the ones who paved the way for you. And a lot of them don't do that. So it's like, with me as an artist, like, I've been doing it for a while. You know, and I always pay respect to whoever did it before me. Even if I didn't listen to their shit, I know who paved the way for me and who started this thing and who got off the ground running. So you just have to have that general respect, because once you have that, and then another cat comes along down the line, you can pass that along because you have that built within you. And that's where I think we lost our way with hip hop too, from like generation to generation.
And it's just hard to walk that line, you know? Especially as a reviewer, you know, one of the complaints I get from a lot of people is that I'm an old head. I always praise the boom bap shit. I don't like anything new. And that's not true, because if you actually look through my reviews, there are some new school artists and new school sounds that I have rated highly. I do obviously connect more to a more traditional sound. I like depth and bars and content, as I brought up earlier. But even still, like, I really try to walk that line where I'm not just one of these guys who says, everything has to sound like this, has to have that old school sound. I don't like anything new. It's not about that. And that's sort of why I still review some of these new school projects. I know you said that you skip out on a lot of them, and I don't blame you at all. But I always like to give it a chance and try to find something to praise. But I really find that when I'm listening to this stuff, it's hard to find stuff that's praiseworthy, because, you know, a lot of the production sounds the same as well. A lot of people are using very same production styles, working with the same producers, working with the same people. You'll just see the same people and same producers on every project. Whereas, like we were talking about earlier, back in the day, you had this group over here who worked together. You know what I mean? And they'd cross over once in a while with someone on, you know, another coast or whatever, and it would feel special. But I do feel like some of that special feeling is gone. Do you get what I mean? Like when you had to discover a CD, or you saw that music video.
Yeah, man, I miss those days. I miss those days of when you had to wait for an album to come out and you had to go to the record store and you had to go, cop it or you had to go actually search for. Like, I used to do that all the time. Like, my segment, I got a segment I did called CD Case Studies where I would tell stories about my CD collection that I found that I had, stored away. And I just went down like a trip down memory lane thinking about all the CDs and albums that I had to actually go out and physically find that weren't easy sometimes to find, but that was part of the experience. And then when you got that project and it was dope, it just made it even more better. Nowadays, you just like go to your computer, you search the album, and boom, it's right there for you, which is very convenient. I like streaming too. Like I stream, absolutely. I listen to all my music on Apple Music for the most part. Except for like my vinyl that I buy when I buy vinyl and stuff like that. But for the most part, Apple Music is how I go because it's very convenient. But you do lose that sort of connection with the music in a way where it's like, okay, this is a physical piece. And, you get to look at the liner notes and you get to see who was a part of the album and the art design and all that stuff. All that stuff is lost now. Like, nobody cares about that these days anymore, it seems. So, I do miss that aspect of it. But, it's give and take. Like, we had to wait. We would have to wait literally weeks for an album. Like, they wouldn't announce an album months in advance or weeks in advance, and we'd have to sit there and just be waiting and waiting and waiting. And now somebody can drop an album in 2 days. Like, Fetty was made in 2 days. Freddie Gibbs Currency, they made that shit and then dropped it like that. So it's that convenient. So it's dope, but then it has like its drawbacks. But I mean, it changes. It changes with the game, and that's how it is. So it's like you just got to roll with the punches. Ain't shit we can do about it. Look, we got to deal with the game and how it is.
And that's what it comes down ultimately, as we're getting older. I think some younger people listening to this podcast might not be able to relate to all that. You know what I mean? Like, imagine coming up in this time where you just click on whatever you want to listen to. It's just there all the time. And I came up in Canada, all right? So it was even harder to discover music because we had much music. We'd have Rap City. It was like half an hour, a couple times a week. So I'd basically watch that and be like, oh, who's this artist? And I'd write their name down. Sometimes I'd just buy a CD and just hope. You know what I mean? I like the single. I hope the shit's good. And then there was that Columbia House scam. Do you remember that?
I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it. It was a while back ago.
I forget exactly how it worked. I actually didn't do it, but a bunch of people in my neighborhood did. And you basically sent them a penny. You sent them a penny or some shit like that. They sent you like 10 CDs, and then you were supposed to. That was supposed to be like a contract. That meant that you had to buy so many CDs through the year or whatever. But nobody fucking did it.
I never did. I remember my sister did that. My sister did that for me. She bought me I think she bought me Mystical's Tarantula album, Ludacris's like Word of Mouth, a whole bunch of CDs, right? And she did it on that Columbia House shit. And it was like a penny or like $1. And then they sent her a bill and she threw that shit away. I remember, I ain't paying for this shit. You got your CDs already. I was like, yo, that's cold-blooded. So, yeah, I remember that shit.
Yeah, there's just so many memories, too, like you said, of actually looking at the liner notes. And I find, even now, I still have a bit of a CD collection. And as I look at the CDs, I can remember where I got it, when I got it, what I was doing. Whereas with Spotify, it's like, oh, you just pop up your phone or Apple Music and click, you play it.
Yeah,
but
that experience
that's how
is lost,
goes.
Man. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you can still go do it, but it's not the same because that used to be the only way you can get your music is to go out and physically buy it. Like now, it's not that same way. So like you can do that, but it just don't feel the same,
And you had to take that chance.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can go on and stream, and you can just click through an album. I'm sure a lot of people do it. They just click. Obviously, we review music, so we listen a bit harder. But I'm sure some people just, let me check this album out. And they click and listen to like a minute of each song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it's like, fuck this album. On to the next one. Let me see, whatever. Whereas back in the day, when you bought that CD, especially if you were younger and say your parents gave you some money to buy an album or whatever.
Yeah.
You better fucking grow to like that album. You're almost brainwashed into liking that shit because you're like, oh, I guess this is my CD for the next couple of weeks.
Nah, man, I remember this horror story. I'm gonna tell you, and trust me, first, it's about Keith Murray. All right, so first of all, Keith Murray is the legend. OG, but I bought a Keith Murray album. I don't know if you heard about this album called Rapmerphobia. You heard about that album?
Which one would that have been? Because when I think of Keith Murray, I think
it came out in like the late 2000s, like the mid to late 2000s.
Was that the one with what's his that song? Can't nobody do it better?
Yeah, with Tyrese. Yeah,
yeah, that was a jam though.
So that was a jam. So that's the reason why I bought it, because I was watching BET and I saw that video. I was like, okay, that's a cool little Keith Murray joint. Tyrese singing. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Keith Murray, because I like the album he did, the He's Keith Murray album he did. With We Do This Like We On Tour and Don't Give. You remember that shit? You remember that shit with Redman and Eric Sermon?
Which one was that?
That was off the He's Keith Murray album. That was that came out like I think like 2000 or 2000 with Candy Bar and all those joints. You remember that shit?
Oh, she look like a candy.
Yeah. So.
But I got to interrupt you for a quick second on that. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the Canadian group, the Rascals? They did a song with that exact same beat.
Oh, really?
And there's just all this controversy about it because it was the same beat. I think it might even had the same hook and everything. Damn. And then Keith Murray came out with it, and I was like, what the fuck? This is kind of weird.
Keith Murray stealing from the Rascals. Shit.
Yeah.
But no, so back to the album. I bought that album, right, off the strength of that one song. I was like, okay, this should be dope. It's Keith Murray. So I get the album, and the album is so just like underwhelmingly not good. I was sitting there with like the most disappointed face in my life because I was like this is the moment when I said Keith Murray sounds kind of like an old rapper who's kind of like when a rapper sounds like old, like they don't sound yeah. So that was when I listened to it, I was like, Keith Murray sounded kind of old right now, but like not
he was just out of jail, wasn't he?
Yeah. I don't even know if he had just got out of jail. I think he did, but like when I listened to it, I was like, the only song that I thought was the song that was a single, and I was pissed because that cost me it was like a $13 album. I was just sitting there like, yo, I could have bought something else, and I don't think I ever listened. I still have it in my CD case, but I don't think I ever listened to it ever again since then. Every time I look at it, though, I just remember I'm like, fuck this album. But I love Keith Murray. Shout out to Keith Murray, but shit, not that one.
And that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Whereas if you had Apple Music or Spotify back in the day, you would have just skimmed through it and been like, this is trash, but maybe you kept 2 or 3 songs, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly. So y'all younger motherfuckers are lucky because like we had our bank account because we was all broke. It wasn't like we had money to buy them shits when we was teenagers. Like when we bought an album, it was a roll of the dice. So like if we was bad, you couldn't take it back. You couldn't go back. Once you open that shit, it was done. So y'all lucky that y'all could just skim through albums and check it out and be like, okay, I ain't gonna listen to this or pick the songs you want and be done with it. But I mean, that's like I said, the change of the game. But it was the thrill of it. It was the fun part of it too. Because if you got a dope ass album, then that was the shit. Like, come on.
Oh, you were the man. If you found a good album that people weren't overly familiar with, you were the man. And then of course you had the aspect of trading CDs too, right? So your friends and your cousins would have shit.
Fuck that. Nah. Check this out. I traded CDs with my homeboy. He tried to take one of my Wu-Tang CDs. He tried to take my 36 Chambers. Nah, we about to throw hands for that shit. Because he didn't want to get that shit back.
You can't do that.
I was like, he's like, let me borrow that Wu-Tang. I was like, all right. 2 weeks later, I need it back. All right, I got you. Then he tried to keep it for another week. I was like, nah, nigga, we throwing hands if you don't give me my Wu-Tang back. we ain't playing that. I need that. So I was like, once you give a nigga a CD, you better make sure you get your shit back. For real.
And then the game changed. Like, just while we're going on this topic down memory lane, then came the time, of course, we got to shout out Napster, Kazaa, Limewire, BearShare, all that shit. That changed the game, especially when Napster first came out and, before all the legal stuff happened with I think it was the drummer from Metallica who basically started the whole, we can't let this piracy go on with our music, which, he was right. But, I just remember with Napster, what I would do is I'd open up a Source magazine or XXL, and I'd see an artist, and I'd just be like, oh, they have a CD out. And you could just search for the CD title and download every song one by one by one by one. And that was sort of the start of, obviously now we're paying for streaming services or whatever. But I just look back at how far things have come, man. I mean, you go back even further to the day of tapes, when you had to dub CDs off people and all that shit. But, the game has changed. And we could talk about that forever. But I think we should move on to one topic I'm really excited to talk about. And that is Castlevania Season 2 on Netflix, man. I thought this was fucking dope. What a show, man. Honestly, like, what I like about it, first of all, I think the animation is great. It sort of has an anime feel to it, but it's still very dark, very crisp. And I thought the voice acting was pretty cool, too, how they had a lot of European accents. It just sort of added to the scenery of the thing, because it's, you think of vampires and Dracula, obviously that's the sort of thing that you think of, right?
Exactly.
But even just the story is like, they kill Dracula's wife, and he's basically like, fuck this shit. Everybody has got to pay for this shit. And she warned them.
Everybody about to die, motherfucker.
And she warned them. She told them, she's like, please don't fuck with me, because if you do, y'all gonna die. And what did they do? Tell them what.
They fuck with her. They killed her. They burned her ass. Like, I like, why would you do that? That's Dracula's girl. Like, that's Dracula's girl. They ain't like some random nigga's girl. That's Dracula, fam. And you just gonna go ahead. That priest is an asshole. Like, that motherfucker.
Man.
I was so glad when he fucking got killed, the priest. But like, even when he came back in season 2 in the beginning, because I was like, didn't this motherfucker die already? But it was like a it was like a preview. I was like, what the fuck is this nigga doing back here so soon? I'm like, I thought he was dead. But then like, I couldn't stand that motherfucker for real. But man, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with him, I thought what was kind of funny is you hate him so much, but in some ways, doesn't it remind you of what's going on today? Specifically with you guys down in the States, where you have all these religious leaders and politicians who are basically shunning science and climate change and women's rights and shit. That's the first thing that I thought of, is like, it kind of ties into what's still going on today. Maybe not
I hate
as
that motherfucker so
primal
much.
and violent, but, you know, it's still kind of there.
Exactly, yeah. And just going back to the show, it's like, the way that season 2 starts off, like, you really, like compared to season 1, because season 1 was really centered around Belmont, but this one is really centered around Dracula more. But as you're watching this season, I felt kind of sorry for Dracula. The motherfucker was so depressed. He spent so much time in that goddamn study. He was just sitting there all sad and shit by the fire. I was like, come on, Dracula, go do something. Like, I was like, damn. And he didn't even give a fuck. Like everybody was like, hey, Dracula, we should do this. All right. Hey, Dracula, we should do that. Okay. As long as they die, I don't give a fuck. Like, he didn't really, I was like, come on, Dracula, come on, you're supposed to be like that dude. And I just felt bad for Dracula, because, like, he lost his wife, you know, he loved the shit out of her. I mean, Lisa was fine, don't get me wrong, she was fine as hell, so I'd be sad too. But, like, the fact that he was pretty much all by himself, and then he said, I'm just going to start this huge war against, like, the humans, and I'm going to get all the vampires together, and we just going to wreak havoc. And, like, I mean, you really had to be heartbroken and fucking just tore up to go that level of genocide to a whole group of people because they killed your wife. Not even all of them. It was just a group of niggas that killed his wife. It wasn't even all the humans. Like, we ain't do that shit, Dracula. Like, it was the priest in his home, so fuck them up and leave us alone. Shit.
Yeah, he was big mad. He was big exercise large mad.
Super mad.
But the thing is, I think that's what made his character so interesting, because you do feel sort of bad for him. Obviously, what they did was horrific, and he was trying to give the people science and medicine. Like, really, if they had to just mind their damn business, they would have been better off. Because she had all that equipment that they burned and all the books and shit. She was just trying to help people, and they fucked all that up. But it actually made his character so interesting because he was complex. Because he did have this anger that was sort of simmering underneath. Like you said, he looked like he was very sad and depressed a lot of the time, just sitting there. People coming in asking for advice. He's like, yeah, fuck it, do what you got to do. So as a character, I thought he was very well-rounded. And what I liked about that is, at times, they kind of alluded to how maybe he was weak, especially once that wicked, evil bitch Carmilla came around, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Carmilla, oh my God.
She was fucking everything up. But I thought that was cool because they almost made you feel like he was a weak old man. That was something that was said about him a couple of times. But then, as we saw in some of those fight scenes, he was still tough as hell, and he could still fuck everyone up, but just inside he was torn apart. Because deep down, it almost feels like he knew that he was going over the top. You know what I mean? But he just didn't care. Because once you gather all these vampires from around the world to take out the human race because they killed your wife, once all that shit comes together, you can't really just change your mind.
Right. He already put himself in that position. And he like you said, he knew what he was doing probably wasn't right. And he knew probably Lisa wouldn't have approved of that. But he says he's already knee deep in this shit, so he might as well do it. And the fact that, like, you know, he was just doing it because, I mean, I think he was also just twisted and confused in his head. Like you said, like, Dracula came off like he was weak, but I think emotionally he was weak. Emotionally he was weak, maybe even mentally. I mean, physically, of course, he was still, I mean, he's Dracula, he was strong as shit. I mean, he was throwing hands all day, especially at the end of the season with that big ending fight. But, like, you can just see his spirit was dead. Like even like Alucard said, like, he's been dead for a long time. Like, Dracula was just pretty much dead inside. Like, outside he was living, but inside once Lisa died, he died too. So he was just pretty much just going through the motions, and you can just see that on screen, which I thought was dope because it kind of humanized Dracula a little bit. He kind of had these, like, human-ass traits. Even though he was trying to kill the humans, he was expressing these traits as a human. So I thought that was dope.
It was cool too how at the end how they sort of tied it all together, because when Alucard's in the castle, if you're listening, you know, you're gonna get spoilers throughout the shit. Maybe I should have said that at the start, but you know, just be aware of that, because we're just gonna talk about everything. But and we'll fill in the blanks as we go. But at the end, I thought it was interesting how Alucard, he almost becomes Dracula, because remember, he's at the end, he sees the ghost of his father walking around, and then he says to himself, so this is what he felt like, because now Alucard is all alone in that castle by himself, and the season ends with him just sobbing in that chair, just sort of sitting there crying.
Man, I'm telling you, when I saw Alucard in there crying, I was like, damn, Alucard, you gonna make me... I halfway shed a thug tear for the dude, because I was like, I feel bad, because like Belmont and Cypher, they went off, they together, they a little couple now, they all cute and shit, and Alucard's in this big ass castle that his father owned, that he just killed his father. His mom's dead, and he's seeing the ghost of his mom in this big ass, and he's just going through it. Like, I'm like, Alucard, like, I mean, if Alucard kills himself, I hope he don't, but like, I mean, I can see why he would, because like, come on, what does he got? He got no friends, no family, everybody left his ass, and he's just sitting in this big ass castle, like, doing nothing, like, but sitting in his study. Like, I mean, like, this is a depressing ass show. Like, honestly, like, you feel bad for a lot of these motherfuckers. The strongest characters, physically the strongest characters, are so emotionally broken and weak. It's so sad to see them like this, but it just makes their character so much better. Now I want to know, like, what is Alucard gonna do in season 3? Like, after, like, now he's come to a reality that he killed his father, his mom's dead, his friends are gone, and he's just by himself once again. Like, is he going to go back to sleep, or is he just going to sit in the castle all day and just be like, you know, crying and shit like a bitch? I mean, I get it, but he's still crying like a bitch.
And that's what's so interesting, is there's so many different ways that the show can go now. Because I thought to myself, if this season's going to end with Dracula being killed, where does it go? What's the next thing that's going to do? Mean, but I think they did really obvious. Well by leaving it open, because now you don't know what's going to happen with Alucard. Is he sitting there? You've got Trevor and Sypha. They're going off on their journey to basically continue fighting against evil. And now we got to bring in one of my favorite characters from the whole show, my boy, Isaac. The slave that, like, whips himself like that motherfucker from Boardwalk Empire. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but there's a guy that whips himself that. But, I felt bad for him, because he was the one person who was truly loyal to Dracula. He even ended up killing Godbrand when he was talking all that wild shit. And then remember when Dracula just throws him out through that magic mirror into the middle of the desert? He's like, peace, nigga. Just threw him out there like that. And then all those guys.
But Dracula did that because he knew how loyal Isaac was. He didn't want Isaac to die for him, because he was like, it makes no sense for him to die for me. He knows the loyalty. So even though, like, Isaac would have died for Dracula, Dracula did it because he didn't want Isaac to die for him, because he thought he was more valuable than that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, so that shows the complexity of everything. And it sort of comes back to what I was saying about Dracula, how he knew he was too far and he was too deep in the shit, and basically it was just going to be chaos. Whatever he was trying to plan wasn't really going to work. So he had this guy tagging along and was like, you know what? Good luck out there. And just, I like how with his story, how it ends in the season, how he kills those guys that are fucking with him, basically just being racist, like, you're an animal, you're nothing, you're not even a person, what is this thing? And he's just like, you know what, just leave me alone, man, I'm trying to drink water. But they kept talking that shit. He killed them all. He's starting his own army now. I feel like there are just so many different routes they can take with this show. Like, there's so many different things going on with every character. Of course, there's Hector, who was also a very sad character, because they kept calling him a little boy and a puppy. And as the show went on, you really do kind of get to see that. Because at the start of the show, he seems like he's powerful, because he has that, you know, he's like a, what do they call them? Not a necromancer, but, you know.
He's like a resurrector or a conjurer or whatever they call it, but he brings the motherfuckers back to life. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like they made him look so strong and smart and wise. But I like his character, because as it goes on, you basically realize that he's just a bitch. And Carmilla, at the end, completely made him her bitch when she put the cuffs on him and she punched him in the face so 20 times.
I was like, we gotta talk about that Carmella situation. Like, first of all, Carmella, I already knew the moment she showed up, she was gonna cause some problems. I already knew.
The way she walked in looking all good like that. You knew.
Exactly, walking in like she know everybody want to smash, because they do. But I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, like, at the end, like, when you see, okay, like, Dracula's castle's, like, you know, I mean, gone, and the whole plan fell out, and it's just her and Hector, you think that she's going to be like, okay, Hector, it's just me and you, and all of a sudden, she just flips the script and just starts putting hands on this nigga, like she completely bitches this nigga so much, and then she's like, good boy, good pet, and then she's dragging this motherfucker behind the horse and shit. She don't even look at him on the horse. I'm like, God damn, Carmella. So now, we got now with season 3. This is what I'm thinking is gonna happen, because we got Trevor and Cypher, who's gonna be, of course, the heroes. But then I think we're gonna have this little situation where I think Carmella's gonna be like the main villain, and then you're gonna have Hector as well tagging along. But then Isaac, I think, is gonna be like that secondary villain who kind of like he's after both Belmont and Carmella, because both of them were pretty much caused Dracula to die in some way. So I think Isaac's gonna be that, like, that hidden gem of, like, he's gonna be like the in between. He's gonna be like a hero-esque villain. He's gonna be that one looking for vengeance, but also to kind
He's
of take
Stone
over
Cold
as well. So it's gonna be like this crazy free for all. Yeah, so he's gonna be like Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, he gonna come in with
glass shatter.
Yeah, the glass gonna break. You know, he gonna give a couple stunners. He gonna stomp a mud hole, walk it dry, all that shit. So yeah, I can't wait for season 3 because like this show is fucking fantastic. Like honestly, like. And I didn't even grow up playing Castlevania. Like I only played a couple of them, but this show is so good. Like from the animation to the acting, but the story and the character development on here is so goddamn good. Like I was so mad that even though it was 8, they gave them more episodes this season too. But I wish we need more than that. 8 ain't enough. We need like 16 episodes next season. 16 at least.
They're renewed for another season, which is good. So we are definitely going to get some more Castlevania. And I also want to point out the humor in this show. Like, I think this show did such a good job of having the serious moments. You know, the characters have a lot of depth, as you said, and there's great dialogue. But there were some genuine moments where I was actually laughing out loud at this shit. Like, I think probably my favorite moment was when, you know, Alucard and Trevor, they have this sort of relationship where they're always fucking with each other, but you can tell they're down for each other, but they're always playing games. And there's one moment where they were talking about their childhood, and then Alucard goes, I had more of a childhood than you did. And Trevor Belmont goes, and your dad was fucking Dracula. Just that shit, like, that just cracked me up. Like, for him to have a worse childhood than someone when his dad was a murderous vampire. Like, just little lines like that. Just the way the characters interacted with each other was really dope. Godbrand, of course, he was a funny character while he lasted because he was just basically a Viking vampire who, what did he say? He kills, fucks, and makes boats out of everything?
Exactly. Like Godbrand was one of my favorites. I wish he would have stayed around longer. Like I like how they were saying like Godbrand, you know, he likes to either kill, eat, or fuck. That's what he's about. You know, like you can't kill it, eat it, or fuck it. He don't mess with it. But Godbrand was dope. But like Isaac, the way Isaac killed Godbrand though, I mean like shit. But Godbrand asked for it low key. Godbrand low key like asked for it because he was gonna end up turning on Dracula, but like Isaac was just loyal to the soil, like so. I think I mean Isaac was like he didn't give a fuck. Like you said anything bad about Dracula, that's your ass. You ain't gonna live.
And that's what was cool too with Godbrand is he was sort of this braggadocious tough guy character, kind of like how you knew Carmilla was going to tear shit up. When I saw how Godbrand was, I was like, someone's going to kill him over his mouth. And there was even that scene where Dracula. Remember when Dracula G-checked him? When he came in and was talking shit to Dracula, and he's like, "What?" Dracula's basically like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
What you gonna do, nigga?" He's like, "Nothing. I'm just saying, Dracula. I'm just saying we should be doing this."
Yeah, like, and then Carmilla kicked his ass. And Carmilla kicked his ass down the stairs. He went head over heels.
I know, right? That
down.
was funny. She just kicked him like she like booted his ass. I'm like Carmilla was savage, yo. I'll give it to you. Like Carmilla, I can't wait to see what she does in season 3 because the signs that she shows that she's gonna be a good villain though, because like she was able to manipulate and get her way and just do everything she needed to do. Like, and she almost succeeded if it wasn't for, you know, Alucard, Belmont, and Cypher. Like she would have probably succeeded in her plan. So that was
when she moved the castle. Yeah. That was a cool thing too. That kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy VI. I don't know if you played that one, but they have the castle that it doesn't travel magically like Dracula's castle, but it can go underground. Can pop up in different places, so that was kind of a cool thing to me. Reminded me of one of my favorite video games. But just the fight scenes in this, too. We didn't really talk about that much, but there were a lot of good fights in it, man. Especially the Dracula and Alucard fight at the end. It sort of had a Dragon Ball thing, where they were just going through walls, floating around and fighting. And this added even more depth to Dracula's character. Remember when they smashed through the wall into Alucard's room, where Alucard finally kills him in his bedroom, and that was a heart-wrenching moment, man, just because in that moment, he realized what he was doing. Like, I'm killing my son in our own house. This son that I made with the woman I love. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And I think you get a lot of those sort of moments with Dracula where you see that deeper sense of who he is and he has that little bit of clarity. But again, he's so far in it. Like, what's he going to do at that point?
But no, exactly what you were saying is, that last fight was so it was crazy. It was dope. It was action-packed, but it was emotional, especially like you said at the last part, because like he's looking around the room, he's seeing like the toys that he built for Alucard, and Dracula's like, "I'm killing my boy, like Lisa. I'm killing the last thing that I have that's of you." And he's like, that's when he realizes that like he's really gone too far, and there's that moment where Alucard takes the stake from the part of the bed and stakes Dracula through the heart, and like it was a moment where he was like, damn, like Alucard got what he finally wanted, but now you can tell like it's bittersweet on all levels. So it was just a dope ending fight. And also, you know, the Morningstar Whip showed up. That was fire. Trevor got his Morningstar Whip. You know, so that was like dope.
A video game moment.
Yeah, I think there was a lot less action in this season than season 1, but the action when it did show up really was dope. So I didn't really care. I didn't really like mind that too much because the story itself was still fire. So,
and that's what I liked about it, was how it built up, because the first half was more based on these are the characters, this is what their motive is, this is what's going on, and they kept it interesting. Like the stuff that was happening was very engaging. The characters were great, so you were interested in that. Then the second half obviously got more into the fight scenes. I especially like that one when they were in the Belmont estate. Remember when Trevor has to hold those like 3 or 4 different monsters off, and he's fighting them all in different ways, throwing the knives, the Morning Stars. That was a great fight. There was another one where, I think it might have been down there too, where Sypha was shooting the ice darts. No, that was when they went to Dracula's castle. Remember she had all those ice darts? She's like, whew,
yeah, then she had that fucking missiles. She made that dope ass ice wall, and she was flipping it around, and she split that motherfucker in half. I'm like, all right, Sypha, go ahead.
Yeah, that was crazy. And Alucard's fighting with his sword. His sword kind of floats around and does its own thing.
Yeah, and then the motherfucker turned into a wolf. The motherfucker turns into a wolf and then throws the sword with his mouth and then turns. I'm like, goddamn, Alucard, you a G.
Oh, yeah, that was sick. That reminded me of Symphony of the Night. You said you didn't play many of the Castlevania games. So moving on from the show, what Castlevania games have you played?
I think I played 3 for a little bit, and then I played it was the one that came out on PS2. I played a little bit of that one. So those are the only ones I played.
3 is the one that the show seems to be based around the most, because Sypha's in 3.
Yeah.
Alucard's in 3. And there's actually a character in Castlevania 3 called Grant. He was like everyone's favorite character back in the day because he was this pirate,
right,
but he could like climb walls, he threw knives and shit. And I kept hoping that they would bring him onto the show, but they didn't. Not that they really needed him. I think he would have kind of been just an extra wheel, you know? So they didn't really need him, but I thought that would have been cool since it's tied into the show. But I love the Castlevania games, man. Symphony of the Night, that's the one where you actually play as Alucard. It came out the same day that this Season 2 did, actually, so it must have been sort of a collaborated effort from the people behind Castlevania. I recommend that game to everybody. It's an older game, but you can get it on the PlayStation Network for like, I think it's like $20-$30. It's on there for pretty cheap, and it's worth every penny. It's a great game.
I'm about to check that one out. Yeah, now I'm a brand new Castlevania fan, so I'm about to go back and play some more games. But yeah, man. But since we on gaming, let's talk some gaming. Why not? Why not? Let's get it. Let's get it.
So I haven't played Spiderman or Red Dead Redemption 2. I know you have both of those. So you just give me a little rant. What are you feeling about both of these games? Let the people know.
Both these games are phenomenal. Spider-Man and Red Dead Redemption 2 are fucking amazing. Like, let me start with Spider-Man, because I finished the main story of Spider-Man. I played it on my channel, Gaming with the Granddad, on my main channel. So if you want to watch the Let's Play, hilarious, check it out. It's dope. But the story in itself of Spider-Man, I think Sony did a really good job, like kind of rebranding this entire franchise, because Spider-Man games have kind of been like in the past, but this one is really good. The story is dope. The action's crazy. It's just the mechanics, swinging around New York City. It's seamless, it's fluid, and it's just like, I mean, you just gotta get your hands on this game and play it. Like, you can play this game literally for hours. There's so much to do. The main missions, the side missions, the little challenges. It's all there. And then they just released the DLC, which I'm working on now. The heist with Black Cat. She's so fine. Black Cat is so fine.
Oh, nice.
I'm just saying. And I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say we might have a Mori situation in that DLC. I'm just saying. But it's dope. I'm not gonna say nothing else. You gotta play it. We might have a Mori situation in the heist in DLC and Spider-Man, but
how many hours is that game to beat? Like, say if I were to buy it, does it have a lot of role-playing game elements where like you can upgrade stuff and you get new equipment?
Yes.
Does it have stats and stuff like that? That's the sort of stuff that I like in games.
Oh yeah, then this is up your alley, because you can get new suits, new gear, stats. There's you get a list of all the stats you do. There's little challenges built in, like if you do a certain amount of web swings, a certain amount of fights, a certain amount of this and that, you'll be able to just check your stats as you go to get full 100% completion. Like, I got 100% completion on everything. But like I said, you can do so much in this game. You can spend hours, even after doing the main essential story, you still have hours and hours of content to go through to get this game 100% done. And now that they got the DLC out, plus 2 more coming later on, you're going to have tons of more content coming. So this game is far from done. So I say if you like that aspect, like the role playing, the stats, the gear, all that stuff like that. You're going to be able to get that in Spider-Man. And the same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2, which is an even more big and massive game. Like, I just started Red Dead Redemption 2 a few weeks ago. I'm playing it live on my Twitch. Twitch.tv/GranddadWooly if you want to see. But I'm playing that live, and I was playing some more yesterday. And literally, I mean, if you play Red Dead Redemption, it's pretty much Grand Theft Auto Wild Wild West style. But you get, you get to go around, you get your weapons, you get your own horse, you get to clothes, you get to eat, you get to go to all these different cities and towns. You get to go around and be either an outlaw where you go around and just kill motherfuckers and you be wanted, or you can be like this cowboy hero where everybody loves you. It's pretty much all up to you. But you can literally do anything in this game. Like, if you want to go and like play poker, or if you want to go and catch a theater show, or if you want to go and, lasso somebody and drag them on your horse like through town, like whatever you want to do, it's like they can you do whatever you want. Like, I was playing yesterday and I was doing a mission where I was going with my homeboy. I forget his name, but we went to the saloon and we got shit-faced drunk. Like, and they gave you drunk goggles while you were playing. You were playing with drunk goggles, and everybody looked like my homeboy. And then I ended up getting into this bar fight, and then I ended up grabbing this dude, almost drowning his ass, but I didn't drown him. I didn't kill him. But then he told the cops, and then the cops chased us, and we ended up in jail. Yeah, that's what happened. And it's fire. That's how dope this game is. Shit like that happens randomly. It's so much random dope shit in this game. But you can also, like, you can go and hunt. You can go, like, hunt animals, and you can skin them and sell the hides and get new clothes with them. You can you
craft in it? Can you craft stuff in it?
You can craft. Yeah, you can craft stuff from plants and food. You can eat. You can set up camp. It's like, literally, it's kind of like, okay, like Legend of Zelda was, like the last one where you can craft and do things like that. It's kind of like that. Like, so that aspect's there. So you can, I mean, you have to eat. You have to eat. You have to change clothes. You have to bathe. You have to take care of yourself as well as your horse. Your horse has to be well maintained. So it's like all these things play a factor in how your game goes. And it's so massive. This game is, I've barely scratched the surface with this game because it's so much to do. There's so many little towns, there's so many missions, and there's so many side missions. Like, you could be riding down the road and somebody could be like, they could have fell off their horse, they could be injured, or they need some help going somewhere in the town, and you can choose to help them. So there's literally like hours upon hours. Like, the game is like over 100 gigs big anyway. So like, there's so much to do in this game. So I would say, like, role-playing games, Spider-Man and Red Dead Redemption for PlayStation. Well, Red Dead Redemption for Xbox too, but those two games are like the best this year that I've seen as far as being able to, get your money's worth, because you are going to get your money's worth for both these games. Like, I feel like I've already got my $60 with Red Dead Redemption, and I haven't even finished the game, nearly finished the game, but it's dope. And the fighting is done, like the dead eye mechanics and the guns, and I mean, you get the old school double barrel shotguns and the revolvers, and you got to have some money too. So you got to, like, and it's like, shit's cheap, but it's expensive. Like $100 is like a lot of money, but then like a gun will cost $50. So you got to think about your choices. Like, you got to think about how much money you want to spend. You got to rob motherfuckers sometimes, but you got to make sure nobody sees you robbing them, because then they'll snitch on you, and you got to try to kill them before they tell, or you're going to be wanted. It's like, it's some crazy shit. Like, literally, yesterday I was shooting motherfuckers for not greeting me properly. I would say, "What's up?" And if they was mean to me, I shot them. That's what I was doing for like 10 minutes. And then, like, I ended up with $100 bounty on my head, and then I ended up in jail. But, it was worth it, because these niggas need to talk respectfully to me in these streets.
I gotta get that game, and I've been sleeping on that just because, generally speaking, I'm not big into cowboys and Wild West. Like, that's just not my thing. I'm much more of a fantasy guy. Like, I liked Skyrim, played the hell out of that. Dragons and swords and spells. That's just more my type of thing. But with Red Dead, just the things that I've seen about it, it's gotten incredible ratings. Just the depth of it. I think I'd probably still enjoy it. I think it would probably grow on me a lot, despite not being big into the Western world and all that.
You'll like it. Honestly, you'll like it. Like, I'm not big into Wild West stuff either, but honestly, you will like this game, because you forget that you're in the Wild West, but the way that it plays and just the things that you can do, you kind of forget about that, because it's just so fun. You're gonna get brought into this game's world so fast that you're just gonna enjoy every little aspect of it. So it might turn you into a Wild West fan, honestly, like, because it's that dope. So yeah, get the game, Luke. Get that and get Spider-Man. Stop slacking.
I might have to, because I got the Soulcalibur 6. Been a huge fan of the Soulcalibur series all my life. I just have so many good memories from pretty much every game. Just, having a bunch of people over and drinking and fighting winner takes all. You know how it goes with fighting games. This one, it's really good. I don't want to turn anyone off from the game. I think if you love fighting games and you love Soulcalibur, you're still going to enjoy this. but maybe it's just a stage of life that I'm at or something. I don't know. Like, I'll fight a couple rounds against the computer and shit, but I don't find the one-player mode to be overly engaging. Some of the menus and stuff are pretty dull. There's not a lot of voice acting in the single-player mode where you create a character and go through. Just little things like that can mean a lot, you know what I mean? Especially when you're talking about a game like Red Dead Redemption where there's so much that draws you in. Even with Persona 5, which I've talked about on pretty much every podcast, everything about it, from the menus to the music to the characters, everything keeps your attention so much. This one, it just, I don't know, I'm kind of disappointed with it. I think I have to put some more hours in really to know 100% how I feel, because I've just been playing a bit here and there, but it's just not hitting me like I was hoping it would. Like, I was hoping I would be blown away by this new Soulcalibur game, but I haven't felt that yet. But are you a fan of those at all? Have you played any of them?
You know what? I'm not huge into Soulcalibur either. Like, I think the last Soulcalibur game that I played, I don't know how long ago this was, but you remember when it came out on the 3 consoles and each one had its own character? Like, the Nintendo version had Link, and like the Sony version had like Yoshimitsu, and I forget which one Xbox had. So that's the one that I played, but not like, I haven't played Soulcalibur 6 because, like, I don't know, I feel the same way that you do, but it's like, it's a cool game. I'm a fighting game snob, though. It's like, I love fighting games. Like, that's my favorite genre next to, like, you know, like probably third-person role-playing games and things like that, and survival horror. So, like, when it comes to fighting games, I'm a Mortal Kombat, Injustice 2, Street Fighter, Tekken, Killer Instinct. You know, those types of games are the ones that I really go for.
Yeah.
But Soulcalibur, even Dead or Alive, I like, and but Soulcalibur, I just never really, I don't know, I always saw it as like a slightly less better version of Tekken in a way for some reason. And yeah, I mean, the characters are cool and some of the gameplay mechanics are dope, but like, I just never really got that. It never really grabbed me. So like, would you say in Soulcalibur 6? I mean, I heard a lot of hype about it. It looked great. Like, I saw some
it's got good ratings
for it, and I saw some gameplay for it. But even still, watching the gameplay and from what you're saying, I just don't think Soulcalibur, like, when you talk about fighting games, yeah, Soulcalibur is 6 deep in the world of gaming, but it still doesn't come up probably in the conversation of as one of the greatest fighting game franchises of all time. I mean, it's got its place, but like, you don't think Soulcalibur off top of your, not, at least I don't. But yeah,
see, I would put it up there
a long time ago. So I don't know. I might still check it out just to be like, you know, for shits and giggles. But like right now, like, I play, you know, Injustice 2, Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is a dope fighter game. You know, Street Fighter, even a little bit of Tekken. Those usually are my go-tos. But I mean, you know, fighting games are like that. Some fighting games are really, really dope, and some are just like very underwhelming because they rely on just the fighting aspect of it. Like, maybe their story mode isn't that great, or maybe their online isn't that great, or maybe they just don't have enough characters, or, you know, the fighting mechanic system is kind of lackluster. You know, the same thing that happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Like, everybody was so hype about that game, and then when it came out, it pretty much was dead on arrival because it just didn't give us what it didn't give the fan base what it really wanted. A lot of the characters that were known for being there, especially like the X-Men characters, weren't there because of, you know, the whole Marvel and Disney, Sony shit. But so, like, all that shit came into play, and it kind of killed that game off before, you know, it can really get off its feet. So, like, you know, Soulcalibur, I'm probably with you. I've probably been like that for a long time. So, but the fact that you said that it's still underwhelming, now I'm probably still not gonna go check it out. I might play it on, like, if it's like a demo and like GameStop or something like that, I'll probably check it out. But I probably won't go buy it unless it's like $20 like later on down the line.
Like, you know, I don't want to turn everyone off from it completely. Like, I'm not saying it's bad at all. The fighting mechanics are still there. The characters are good. The musics are good and all that. I just think right now, like, this stage of my life, I really like those games where the kids are finally asleep, I can dive in, get an incredibly engaging story, and play. You know what I mean? That's why Persona 5 was so great. That's why God of War was so great to me. This is why I'll probably get Red Dead Redemption. But when I have those couple of hours to myself, it just seems like the fighting game isn't really doing it for me. Whereas back in the day when I really loved playing Soulcalibur, that was when, you know, I didn't have any kids, I wasn't married, people were at my house all the time, so it's just like, yo, fire up Soulcalibur, you know what I mean? You just fire it up and you just talk some shit and you just play. Like, it's a very good social game, but once you're married with small kids, your social life kind of tends to take a back seat, you know what I mean?
I feel you.
So I think it's more my stage of life. Like, I don't want to turn people off and say it's a bad game. If you're still into fighting games and Soulcalibur, I think you will still enjoy it, but it's not overly immersive. You know what I'm saying? It does have a good character creation mode. People have been having a lot of fun with that, making pretty much everybody. Although they did have some controversy. I don't know if you saw somehow in the character creation mode you can give your character a big dick. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw. What's the character name where they be humping and shit, or they be using their they be thrusting?
It's like the lizard man.
Yeah, I saw like a video of they gave him like this big dick like dildo thing, and he was just like in the crouching position. He was just doing that over and over again, and he was killing motherfuckers, and like it was the funniest shit I ever seen. So I was like, what kind of game is Soulcalibur playing now? Like making like what the fuck is this shit? I thought it was like a regular like character. I thought that's how the character looked, but they was like, no, you create characters. So yeah, that's wild, but. Maybe that's why people
creation. I was just going to say the character creation is pretty good. Like if you enjoy that aspect, you do get enough customization that you can make a fun character who looks pretty much anything like you want to. As you play the single player mode, you get money and stuff, you unlock new gear. So, there's some good stuff to it, but I don't know. I really don't have much more to say about it. It's funny because as I was preparing for this podcast, I was playing it and just like trying to take some notes or just think of what I had to say, and really didn't have a lot to say, so I'm going to move on from the Soulcalibur thing. I'm going to look into getting Red Dead Redemption for sure. Yeah. But why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back, we'll wrap up. Very quickly, we'll talk about WWE's Crown Jewel.
Sounds good.
Luke James, not the singer. John Crane, magnetic, righteous gunslinger, Northwest DC to Nova Scotia, tight groupings on the poster, Luke James, not the singer.
Alright, we're back after a little break. Didn't have too much to say about Soulcalibur, but we got the goods on Spider-Man and Red Dead Redemption. That's great. Talked about the state of hip-hop, CDs, coming into streaming, Napster, all that fun shit. And we're going to wrap up now talking about Crown Jewel, WWE's last pay-per-view event, I believe, in Saudi Arabia. This one, I was kind of interested in this one just because of all the different things that were going on with it. But the thing I want to talk about first before we get into the matches, Wooly, didn't you think some of this seemed like a little bit of a bad look because you had Hulk Hogan hosting after being straight up racist? The women weren't allowed to wrestle. Renee had to have her shit all covered up. Rey Mysterio couldn't even have the cross on his mask. Cena and Daniel Bryan didn't go. Like, did you feel like some of this shit was a little bit sloppy? Did it feel that way to you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things about this show that, even before the show with the whole controversy of, the whole Saudi Arabia thing with the reporter that ended up getting killed, and the WWE was pressured to not even do the show, and they went ahead and did it anyway because, they were making, I think they said they were making like $50 million off this show. So, like, Vince McMahon was like, we getting that money, so fuck this shit. Like, so he did everything to hold out, and they did the show. But yeah, like you were saying, like, the whole, Renee Young thing. I'm surprised Renee Young was actually able to be doing commentary because, like I said, they didn't let the women even go and perform on the show. So the fact that they let her, they let her do the commentary, which I thought was at least, that was cool. But yeah, even the Hulk Hogan situation, like Hulk Hogan, I've never been a Hulk Hogan fan. I was an Ultimate Warrior dude growing up. I've never liked Hulk Hogan in any way. I thought he was corny as fuck. So the fact that he's back, especially after all those allegations, like I really don't give a fuck about Hulk Hogan. And like he showed up just that one little segment. He just showed up there for a payday, probably, to kind of, try to show face again. And I mean, so like once he showed up on the show, I was like, okay, whatever. And I'm glad he didn't show up anytime after the show. I'm glad that was a one and done appearance because I would have like not enjoyed the show anymore if I keep seeing him. Especially because, like, the whole racist allegations. Like, I don't think he should have been let back in the WWE.
Let's not say allegations. Let's not say allegations.
Not allegations. No, they were true. True. You know what I mean? It was true. They're not allegations. He actually said this shit. It's on record. So I don't think he should have been able to. I don't think he should have came back to the WWE in general. Like, honestly, I don't. But that just goes to show, how the WWE operates with its quote-unquote legends or the ones who, like, I guess paved the way. But like I said, I never fucked with Hulk Hogan. Even like WrestleMania 6 when Warrior beat him, I was so happy. I was the happiest kid in the world. I was like, God damn it, finally this motherfucker's lost. Like, shit. So
I feel like the funny thing with wrestling, though, is most of the wrestlers, they're all going to have some of this scandalous shit behind them. If you have read any wrestlers' books, especially Bret Hart's book, he's talked about it a lot, about the racism in the locker room and backstage, even from guys like Ric Flair and this and that. It's just Hulk Hogan got busted.
Yeah.
Like, he was blatantly caught I think there were a couple of instances with him where he got caught doing this. But like you said, I'm glad that he wasn't throughout it because he just showed up, man. He looked like a rubber lobster. Yeah. He just was kind of like flabby and shrinking. He looked like he was ready to shed his shell. Like he looked a damn mess, and just that combined with everything else to start the show, I was like, fuck, man, this is pretty sloppy. But aside from all that, what did you think of the matches? Like, we're not going to break down every single match here because there's so many. Like, I was shocked this shit was like 4 hours. But what caught your eye about this? Wherever you want to start.
You know what? The matches here, a lot of the matches here really didn't like do anything for me that much because you can tell
they
that
were fast.
Some of these matches were either really short or thrown together. Like, I think that tournament they did, that World Cup tournament, really threw off a lot because all those matches, even though, like, you had Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton and, Jeff Hardy versus, I think, The Miz and stuff like that. Like, matches that if they were given more time, they would have came off better. But they were like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So, like, you really didn't get much out of those matches. And that whole World Cup tournament in general, I think, was just a bunch of waste of time and bogus. Because in the end of it, Shane McMahon ends up winning the shit. Like how the fuck does Shane McMahon win the World Cup tournament for best in the world? And the motherfucker, not only did he not qualify, he wasn't even in the tournament. He just inserts himself because the Miz got hurt, which he really didn't. It was a work. But
yeah,
like if that was the plan all along, why even waste time doing this entire tournament? And like, I think also this tournament, the people who were in this tournament, like, they were good, but I think there were so many other superstars they could have put in this tournament and gave it to it. Like I think they could have put Andrade Cien Almas in this tournament because I thought he's really dope out of NXT. He could have been in the tournament. I think this tournament should have went to some up and coming talent. I don't think we should have gave it to Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy, people who have been here forever, because like they've already had their time. They're all Grand Slam champions. They're all this and that. Give it to somebody who really needs that rub, somebody who really needs that spotlight. So I didn't like that. And then Shane wins the thing in the end. So it's like, it seemed like a big waste of time to me for that one, for the whole tournament shit. And it also took up a lot of time of the show.
Yeah, I felt the same way, actually. That's what I had in my notes, too, is just how fast the matches went by. I do want to point out, though, that Rey Mysterio, he's always been my favorite wrestler. He might be in the best shape of his life, man. He looked good.
Oh, yeah.
Because do you remember when he first came to WWE, how he was, like, beefy? You know what If you look, like, he just looked unnaturally beefy, almost weird. But now he looks like he did in his WCW days, where he's sort of trimmed down. He's much quicker. So I was really happy to see Ray back. I like how he looked. The matches, like you said, they're so short that there wasn't too much to say about them. They're pretty good. Like, I'm not going to complain about Kurt Angle versus Dolph Ziggler. I'm just glad to have Angle back, and, it's fun to see him getting a chance, although, like you said, you could add some new people there. But probably the biggest disappointment to me, to go along with the Shane McMahon thing, is the Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman.
Yes.
That was, to me, that is just such a waste. So the match starts, Baron Corbin hits Braun with the title, and then Brock basically just hits 4 or 5 F5s, and now Brock Lesnar is the Universal title champion again. Like, is there anyone out there who's not tired of Brock Lesnar as champion by now? Honestly, when is Braun Strowman going to get that push and that rub that I think he deserves by now? Or someone else, man? Like, it just seemed like such a waste to me, and it was so disappointing having all this build-up to this show that they would just take that easy way and do it. And I don't know if it has to do with injuries. Same with the Shane McMahon thing. I'm sure there's some backstory that maybe I missed. Maybe it had to do with, Cena and Daniel Bryan not going. Maybe they just did that. But they just really mishandled some of the things on here, I thought.
Yeah, man, I agree. And back to that Braun and Brock match, I had a feeling they were going to give Brock the title again, especially after the whole Roman Reigns leukemia thing where he had to relinquish the title. But I was hoping they was going to give it to Braun. But what I heard, because, I be listening to, like, the little dirt sheets and stuff like that, too. So I heard it was a series of things. First of all, I heard Braun had some heat backstage. Like, he was, like, notorious for being late. He pretty much did it. He was doing a lot of stuff backstage that, I guess upper management didn't like. On top of that, I heard he's also got bad knees. He's suffering with some bad knee injuries. So, like, if you watch him walk and move, he moves a lot slower than he usually does, than he usually was. So So on top of that, the injury or the knee injury and the backstage heat, I guess they didn't want to put the title on Braun because I guess he wouldn't have been able to get a good run out of it. So they did the safe bet. They put it back on Brock. Now, I don't think it's going to be on Brock for super long. I hope it's not on him until Roman gets back because we don't know when he gets back. I hope it's not just to be flip-flopping between those two. What I really want to see, though, is Drew McIntyre get the belt. Hopefully we get a Brock Lesnar Drew McIntyre match, and they can give the title to Drew McIntyre, because I think he would be a good champion if they're not going to give it to Braun Strowman. But the match itself, like I said, was, like you said, was super underwhelming. Like Brock Lesnar does next to nothing like in his matches. He does suplexes and F5s, and that's it. Yep. You know, and it's gotten old to this point, so I'm over it. He's trying to go to UFC. I think he's going to fight Daniel Cormier. So they're just trying to do this whole crossover promotion thing, all for money. Yeah. But it just messes up the whole general storyline, and it messes up the roster and the talent, because when you got these titles, when you got your main titles being held hostage by these cats who don't show up every week, who aren't on the show all the time, it just makes the title like non-valuable. Like you don't even care about it. And the same thing with just to kind of like, you know, go in one section. Ronda Rousey, she has the title in the women's division, and she's not going to lose that title until probably WrestleMania anyway. So everybody in that division who's fighting Ronda or fighting in that division is fighting almost for nothing. So it just sucks when they put the title on these pop culture big names that, you know, they just want to use to, you know, make WWE more known in the mainstream. But it just messes up the whole aspect of the entire company, and it doesn't help build new stars either. So that's what it is. But what I want to talk about, man, is the last match, the main event, the DX versus Brothers of Destruction match. And I'm going to say this, I love all four of these dudes. They are legends, but this match was god-awfully sloppy in so many ways. And it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch this match. And the first reason, we all know Triple H got injured. He got injured early in the match. I think he tore his pec muscle when he got Irish whipped into the corner. So once that happened, that's when everything started to go downhill. And like Shawn Michaels, like I love Shawn Michaels. He's one of my favorites of all time. Like, first of all, I can't get used to seeing him bald. That motherfucker needs some hair real quick. You need to do something, because like I cannot look at Shawn Michaels with no hair. It's so weird. But he had to do it though, because if you look at the top of his head, it ain't just a business decision. He just had to take that shit off. You know, I know. I got to show love as a member of the bald gang, man. I got to support bald HBK in that sense. But I agree with what you're saying. It definitely did look kind of awkward, and I wish they had done this at maybe a bigger event, like a WrestleMania or something within the realm. Because one thing I've seen a lot of people saying about this show, and I definitely agree because I feel the same way, it almost feels like this happened outside of the WWE universe. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just the way it was all put together, just the money behind it and the business behind it, all those little things I talked about at the start that they weren't allowed to do and whatever. It just seems like, wouldn't you have rather seen this at WrestleMania? Of course. DX versus Brothers of Destruction. Don't you think the response would have been better as well? Because I found the crowd was, I don't want to say they weren't into it, but they weren't as loud as they would have been somewhere else, I feel like. But in their defense, this is like 4 hours in by the time you get this match, so they could have been tired. But yeah, but you know, even still, though, like if we would have had this match at a WrestleMania, this is Shawn Michaels' comeback match, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. If we would have did this, which they should have did it at WrestleMania, the response would have been crazy, because not only is it Shawn Michaels' comeback, but he's going against, even though it's a tag team match, he's going against the Undertaker, the dude who retired him. That moment would have been crazy at WrestleMania, because that's where it all ended. So, so I think, of course, it's all done for a payday. And the match, I mean, Shawn had to carry like 80% of that match once Triple H was injured, and it just kind of went downhill. But I will say, Shawn Michaels, for the age, what is he, 50, 52 now? He's up there. Yeah, he's up there. He looks great he's in great shape. He hit all his spots. He did the moonsault off the top and onto the floor. Wait. I got a butt in just on that moonsault thing. Undertaker and Kane almost killed that motherfucker. I know. Did you see the way I saw him get up there, do the moonsault, and I'm just like, okay, I know he's old, but it's Shawn Michaels. He can still do it. And then his liftoff was a tiny bit sloppy. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah. He didn't get the full form, but he got up in the air. I'm like, okay, good. He's going to land. And then Kane and Taker, he went completely through them. Yeah. Like nothing. They didn't even try to catch him. They didn't even try to break his fall. They just said, fuck it. And you know how I saw Taker knew he fucked up, because I rewound it a couple times. After HBK hits, if you go back and watch, you'll see Taker instinctively like reach out and grab his arm. Yeah. And he's like, almost as if to say, fuck, I'm sorry, are you alive? Yeah. Rather than just like lay there like he normally would, selling the move or whatever. Exactly. He just reached over like that. They almost killed him. Kane's mask also came off when HBK hit him. I know. You mentioned the injury as well. There were just so many little botches on this. So many things. I'm like, and then they had to cut away to like a replay so Kane could put his mask back on. So like you see his mask off, and then like it was like some future shit, mask off, mask on. I was like, this match is so And then, like, the ending of it told the story. Like, you know, okay, after, of course, first of all, those pedigrees that Triple H did, I know he was injured, but them shits look terrible. Those are the most god-awful pedigrees I've ever seen him do in my life. But Kane
didn't help, though. When Kane took that,
oh my
it did not
God.
look good.
I was like,
he
please.
did not flatten himself out. It was really
I was
bad.
like, please end this match. And then when the match ended, and you see Shawn and Hunter in the corner, you can see Shawn Michaels' face. You can see the regret. He was like, we getting too old for this shit. I'm not doing this no more. Fuck this. Give me my money. Fuck you, Vince McMahon. Like, you could tell he was done. You could tell he is not doing any more matches at all.
See, I felt a little bit of that, but you also could see, like, there's one point where they kind of look at each other and they smirk, and you could kind of feel like, yes, they're probably thinking we are getting too old for this shit, but at the same time, they seem happy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, fuck, this was a mess, but we made it.
Exactly.
Look where we are. We're going against Kane and Undertaker for old time's sake again. But I definitely get what you mean. Like, he looked fucking half dead by the end of it.
Yeah.
Bleeding all out over his face. Triple H with his pec ruined. Like, there were just so many sloppy things about it. Even that spot when, I forget who was trying to sling who into the barricade. I know it was Undertaker and Triple H, but they just fucked it up and they both just went to the barricade.
It was Taker and Triple H. It was Taker and Taker and Triple H. And that, like he tried to sling him, but he didn't do it all the way. So it just looked. Yeah. It was so many botches. I was sitting there with my hands over my head. I was like, please just let this match end. Like, cause like I don't know, like who scripted the match or whatever it is, but like. Just the spots were it was so many missed times and miscues. And I don't know if they were gassed. I don't know if things had to be changed on the fly because Hunter was injured. But
they had to change a lot.
They had to probably change up a lot on the fly because Hunter was injured. But like, it's just like, for this to be a comeback match and the first time that DX goes against the Brothers of Destruction, I just like, it's a match that I'm probably never going to watch again. And it just shows also that a match that should have been waited for WrestleMania because the crowd was either tired or they didn't care. But even if that match went off the same way, it would have been a situation at WrestleMania where the crowd would have still been into it just for the fact of who it is, and it would have still probably came off on TV a lot better. But because the crowd wasn't into it and it was sloppy, it just overall came off as like this sloppy match that just, please just hurry up and end. But Taker and HBK did look good for their age. They looked the best. Kane looked kind of sloppy, but Kane's getting old. Triple H got injured, so he couldn't do much. So, you know, it was what it was. But, I mean, the whole Crown Jewel, like, pay-per-view, I mean, it was just a money grab. It was just for them to get that $50 million and then be done with it.
Yeah, they made the best of it, but it definitely was sloppy by the end of it. That is one thing we can say for sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? This has been a great podcast, man. We got a lot of length here, over an hour. I think it's time to wrap it up so we don't keep the people for 3 hours. Is there, which would be fine. I mean, we could, but is there anything you want to plug or anything you got coming up you want to let the people know, Wooly?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, of course, you know, check out the youtube.com/Wooly Reviews. I do all my reviews and whatnot. You know, let's talk about the shit, all kinds of dope content. My gaming videos, Gaming with the Granddad, make sure you watch those. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/GranddadWooly if you want to see me doing any Red Dead Redemption live streams. And also, music. I'm coming back. Luke, I'm coming back with a new album. New album is almost here. It's going to be, it's top of the year. You know, we're getting some bells and whistles put on, get everything set right. So look out for my new album with the homeboy Chicano. You better not give me a 3, motherfucker. Luke, I swear, you give me a 3, we fighting. I swear.
Hey.
It is not a 3. It is at least.
Gotta keep it real. Gotta keep it real.
You got
some bars on there?
This is super flame. This is the craziest thing I've done in my career. Like, I swear, if you say 3, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be like Dracula in the castle, I swear. But
just sitting there.
But yeah, so I'm working on that, and as well as some other stuff. I'm also gonna be on working with some other cats too coming up, so look out for that. But yeah, just follow me on all that stuff and you'll see what's going on. But appreciate you for having me on, Luke. It was a lot of fun. Gotta do it again later on sometime when some more stuff comes out and drops. But yeah, Luke James Podcast, #1 in the game. I'm saying it right now.
Hey, there we go. We're early, but we got it on the move. The podcast is on SoundCloud now, just so everybody knows, soundcloud.com/LukeJamesBGN. I'm currently working on getting it on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that shit. It's going to happen when it happens. I've just been really busy. And also, again, send your questions in to Luke at redmattersite.com. That's SITE, because the next episode of the podcast is going to be my 20K subscriber special. Thank you again, everybody, for helping me hit that landmark. Thought that was pretty cool. I want to answer a bunch of questions. So if you want advice on a topic, you want some life shit, you want to talk to me about sports, music, AMA, ask me anything, Q&A, whatever you want to call it, get them in. We'll do that. Thank you again, Granddad Wooly, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And congrats on 20K. It's well deserved, man. Make sure
Thanks, man.
Luke James is doing his thing, so make sure you keep supporting this brother. He's a good dude.
I appreciate it. It's been a lot of work. Thank you again, listeners. And you ain't going to see me next time, but you're going to hear me next time.
Hi.